Don't you worry, the clip's about to begin, but don't forget to subscribe. Or else, don't make me turn this website around.
Maxx in Florida. How are you doing? Welcome to the show.
I am all right. I'm all right. Thank you. I'm not sure if you remember. I called a few weeks ago when Mandisa was on, and we spoke a little bit about reparations. So this is my second time calling in.
Yeah, welcome back. How can we help today?
All right. Thanks. Now, today what I wanted to talk about is how a lot of the white leftists and liberals were surprised by the insurrection that happened because they allowed the right wing to use the poor and disenfranchised argument to gain sympathy. And I heard a lot of leftists and liberals saying, oh, if we just give them jobs and we just give them access to opportunity, they won't follow Trump anymore. But if you look at the data that came back, a lot of the people that were there were CEOs of companies, ex-military, police, things like this, people that you wouldn't traditionally say are disenfranchised. And when they were screaming and yelling, they weren't screaming things like fuck capitalism or even fuck government. They were saying things like fuck BLM and fuck Antifa and things like this. So a lot of black people were not surprised by what happened because we were able to see what it truly is. And from what I can ascertain from it, it seems as though you're blinded. Well, I would say they're blinded because a lot of them are family and friends with these people, so you don't want to see the truth. And so I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that, on what happened.
I wasn't surprised so much as shocked. This is Trump told us who he was and has kept telling us who he was, and we've known who his supporters are, and they keep telling us who they are. Right. A violent insurrection at the Capitol after that rally was the least surprising thing, the easiest thing to predict. And what I'm frustrated by is law enforcement knew the risk, and the Capitol was basically just left unguarded. So yeah, I know some people who are like, "Oh my gosh, I never believed it happened that way." And of those who are starting to say that they never imagined this could happen, now they're downplaying how bad it is. It's like, well, these people weren't really trying to take over the government. They're just disgruntled patriots who decided to protest, and maybe it went a bit too far. No, that ship will not sail here.
It's hard for me to speak for the white liberal that was surprised, because I also wasn't surprised. In fact, back when the Black Lives Matter protests were happening, I knew then that they would, when violence happened, because I believed it was an inevitability from the Trump side, when there was going to be some sort of insurrections, that they would point back and start using the whataboutism about Black Lives Matter and try to equivocate on these things. So not only was I not surprised, I think what you might be hitting on that happens really often, and it was kind of more around the actual election of Trump too, that when people were surprised, it's when people go, oh shit, this thing that actually can affect me has happened. Because for a lot of people, it's that separation of this could ever actually come for me. And now this is starting to feel closer and closer to home. But as far as the surprise goes, or like Matt said, shocked, you can be anticipating something horrible for a long time, say the death of a person who's getting old, and you know it's coming, but when the event still happens, you're still shocked or surprised to find yourself in the state of, oh, this is my reality now, because it's a shift in reality. But I won't say there aren't a lot of people out there who didn't see it coming. I think there were people who very naively thought, well, it can never get so bad, and those are the people who didn't vote at all in the last election. That would be one of the group of them.
There's the optimism. There's the optimism that how far can this go? Like maybe a month or so ago, I talked about the possibility of civil war. The types of things we were seeing wasn't necessarily outside the realm of what could potentially start a civil war, although I didn't think it would go that far, and I was optimistic that it wouldn't. And I think those of us who were cautiously optimistic that cooler heads would prevail and rational heads would prevail in a number of different areas were initially surprised at, hey, they're storming the Capitol. And then upon reflection going, oh, this isn't surprising at all. What's surprising is that I sat here for all these years saying, this is going to get bad. 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 And even I didn't fully recognize how bad it could get because I'm optimistic. It's like, oh, well, finally we got the election. Now we're done with Trump. Well, that's not going to end at all. As a matter of fact, there's another caller getting ready to ask a question after we finish talking, Max. So yeah, I agree with you that there were a lot of people who were definitely surprised by the events of last week, most of them. And I guess all we can do is hope that they don't shrug it off so that they're surprised again.
Max, I have a question for you.
Well, I've already kind of heard it a little bit, to be honest. If you listen to a lot of people, they're still thinking like, oh, yeah, once the 20th, once Biden is inaugurated, oh, that's going to be the end of it. They're going to go back to, I'm like, I don't think that's going to happen like that. Like, there's 75 million people voted for this man. I don't see them just turning on a dime like that just because he's not in office anymore. I personally don't see it.
The National Guard won't be pulled out of D.C. until after the Senate trial of the impeachment. So we are talking about a National Guard presence there for potentially a couple months. And depending on if this is a new normal, it may be longer than that. I would say not only was I not surprised, I still expect worse. As far as my last 4 years, 4 years ago, I owned one gun. I now own more. I'm not going to say the number, but I now own more because the reality of this might come for me in a way that threatens my physical safety. I hope I'm paranoid beyond what is actually reasonable, but I don't think I am. I am more prepared than ever to. I think a lot of people go protect their own life. It'd be more like if you actually think about the reality of things, I'm more prepared than ever to die while trying to kill a couple people on my way out, because that's realistically what's going to happen to you if you ever have to use those guns most of the time in those situations.
On that note, Max, I apologize.
And I completely agree.
We're running short on time, and I got to move on. But I'll let you the option to hang up on us.
All right.
Appreciate it, Max. Call us back. Oh, he hung up on himself while he was talking. That was fucking clever.
That's funny.
Love when you call in. Thanks so much, Max.
Hey, thanks for checking out this clip for The Line. While you're here, hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and then share this with that bitter uncle of yours who loves talking about the good old days.